Good morning students. Let us begin our today's discussion. The topic which we are going to deal, it is already known to you and you have studied about it in a little way in your previous classes. Okay. So the topic which we are going to deal, it mainly consists of the analysis or interpretation of the data itself. Okay. That is, the data might be collected in different way and finally it will be analyzed and a result will be concluded. So here we will be dealing with the topic statistics. Okay, as already you might be knowing these topics. Statistics, you have continuous data form. Okay, so now here also marks frequency remains the same. Okay, whereas when it comes to marks, we will be writing the marks in interval form. Okay, that is class interval. So we will write a range and with the minimum value and the maximum value. Okay, so for example, you can write here 2 to 4. Okay, next 4 to 6, 6 to He has scored 0 runs in first match, next 50 and here 100. Now let us assume here it is 30, next here it is 50 and finally it is 70. Okay, so now what these are? These are the runs of batsman A and these are the runs of batsman B. Okay, so everybody says on an average. Generally what we will say, on an average this is there. So let us conclude this. Okay, so here also let us find by this you can see that we cannot conclude or we cannot come to a conclusion only with the average. Always we have to depend upon what? We have to depend upon even the variation. So here the central tendency, there what we learned? We learned how the data is represented with a single value, or how the remaining values are have a tendency towards that central value. Now in our further, that is in our further classes, we will study So you can see on the board, students, there. Okay, in the mean deviation, first we will understand what is actually the mean deviation, and then what we will do, we will go for a type of data. Okay, so mean deviation, the name itself says it is a mean of all the deviation. Here the deviation means, that is, a deviation might be from any referral point. The referral point in our case, it might be either mean or median. So we will keep a fixed point, that is either mean or median, and we will find the deviation. Deviation of what? The remaining all observation. For example, if you consider the deviation of all the observation from mean, or the deviation of all the observation from median. So such all deviation we will be calculating, and then we will finding its mean. So that is nothing but mean deviation. So for ungrouped data there will be different formula, and for a grouped data it will be different. So before going to actually what is a mean deviation about mean and mean deviation about median, let us recall the formula of mean and median for an ungrouped data. So you can see there, what is there? Mean. So we generally denote mean by what? X bar. X bar is equal to summation of xi divided by n. Xi means those all observation. When it comes to median, median is the middlemost value in all those arranged data. That is, how will you arrange the data? Either in ascending order or descending order. So in any order it might be arranged. After arranging, how it will be? The middlemost value will be our median. So at the last you can see there, mean deviation about mean. It is given by the formula summation of modulus of xi minus x bar divided by n, and mean deviation about median. Only the mean is replaced by median there. So wherever x bar is there, we are replacing by m. Okay, so now you will understand this problem very clearly with what? With examples. So let us, like what we will do, we will consider the problems and understand how actually these formula will be applied or used.